How are you?
I'm great, Katie. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Is it nighttime there?
Yeah, it's 8 p.m. here
Oh
in
wow.
India.
Oh wow. It's 10:30 in the morning here.
Firstly, thank you very much for accepting my invitation and accepting to be on my show.
Sure, happy to.
So I've gone through your profile and the work that you're doing. I thought to tell about your organization to my audience and to the world who will watch this podcast and YouTube channel from anywhere on this planet.
Great. I'm happy to be here. Do you want me to start with just sort of information about DiscoverE and what we do?
Yeah, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Kathy Renzetti. I'm the CEO of DiscoverE, which stands for Discover Engineering. And we have a dual mission. So we're really trying to raise awareness and celebrate everything that engineers do because so many people don't know what an engineer does and how they can change the world. And the other thing that we do is really try to reach students early, like as early as 5 years old, all the way up to when they're 18, and get them interested in engineering. So we want to bring volunteers into classrooms to talk to teachers and students, and they can be bringing in science, technology, engineering, or math, any type of activity around those, and do something that really shows how the engineering design process works, and sort of talk about their profession. And we found that really gets kids excited. It sparks interest in engineering, and then it sticks with them all through school. And then hopefully they go on and find a profession related to something connected to engineering. And that's kind of in a nutshell what we do.
It is an amazing idea uh, to tell kids from their starting age to to know about what engineering is, what people do. When they start in that age, I'm sure when they come to certain age, they will understand the entire process and how engineering industry is contributing to this world and these creators are how they are creating. I'm curious to know what, as an engineer, I did bachelor's in computer science and engineering and master's in software engineering. So, what made you to start this, and what is your inspiration?
Right. So Discover Engineering actually goes back 70 years. It started around National Engineers Week, which the National Society of Professional Engineers launched in sometime in the 1950s. And then in the early 1990s, Discover Engineering really was born because we realized then that we were celebrating engineers during National Engineers Week, but there weren't more and more engineers entering the field. So we realized we really need to get together as an engineering community. So you're an engineer, you're a software engineer. So there are so many types of engineers. So you have software engineers, civil engineers, mechanical engineers, aerospace engineers. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. And so kids don't care, right? They just are want to be interested in what is engineering. So in the early 90s, a group got together and said, okay, we really need to get together as an engineering community and just talk about engineering. And that was sort of the start of Discover E. So a lot of the engineering societies raised sort of that flag and say, hey, go in classrooms, talk about what you do, and let's spread the word. And now, 30 years later, we're still doing Engineers Week to talk about it, and we still have volunteers in classrooms. And we launched Introduce a Girl to Engineering because we realized there weren't enough women and girls pursuing engineering. And we've launched all kinds of other programs around it. And the other thing that we do is we found corporate partners, all the engineering companies and software companies, in addition to the engineering societies. And then we found education partners and academia. So we try and bring everyone together around this idea of engineering. And it's working. It's fascinating to see, and you can now find all kinds of programs out there to kind of get kids excited and interested in pursuing like a science, technology, engineering, math career.
So it started in
It started, sorry, what was the question?
when it started.
So it started in the 1950s, and then we really launched DiscoverE in the early 2000s. And the founder, I'm only the second CEO of the organization. So the founder prior to me was running the organization for about 30 years. So I've been here for 2 years. So I'm the second CEO of DiscoverE that they've had. And we now have the Engineers Week, Introduce a Girl to Engineering Day, and those all occur in February of every year. We do Chats with Changemakers, which is we have a high school student interviewing different engineers, and that's a monthly virtual program. And schools, you can watch it live and ask questions, or we have it on demand. And we also have a Future City competition. I don't know if you've heard of that. But that we work with middle school students around the world. So we've had kids from India participate. We've had kids from China, Canada, all over the U.S. And that's a pretty intensive program. So they're asked to design and build a model of a city 100 years in the future. And we give them a theme every year, a challenge. So this year was build your city based around circular economy, zero waste city. And then they compete. And we just had yesterday our national award celebration. So we had 40 teams make it to the finals. And then we have our top 5 and then our top 3, and they win a trip to space camp. So it's pretty exciting. But we had about 40 to 45,000 middle schoolers participate in that program.
So so how it works? DiscoverE, how it works? It is a non-profit organization.
Yes. So how it works is we are a nonprofit, and we believe in access for all for engineering, just to learn about it. So our website is completely free. All our resources we put on our website for free. Anything, if there is a cost, it's extremely low cost, and a lot of times, so Future City, a lot of times the fees are waived. We really want to reach, our mission is to reach every student and give them an experience with, for us, the focus is on engineering, but it's science, technology, engineering, and math. We really just want kids to experience it. We find that really it increases confidence. Like they go on our website and you can download a free activity and you can search by how old you are or, what your interests are. If you're interested in being a software engineer, there's activities you can try and see, how would you do this? Or a simple activity is like, it's and all the materials for these activities, we try and keep them so you could find them in your house. So how do you keep an ice cube from melting using a cardboard box and aluminum foil? So things like that. And it challenges you to really think. We don't give you the answers. We want to challenge you, and we kind of walk you through questions, and you're challenged to figure out how to do it with, different materials. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun. But yes, our mission is really to provide, we reach about 5 million students annually, and we'd like to double that and be reaching, 10 million in 3 years. But we really are focused on giving everyone that opportunity to experience, what it is to be an engineer.
So uh, what is the age of the students that they join in this organization? The starting age.
So you don't really join, but you can. We try and reach kids through our partners as early as preschool, because it's you know what, it's really fascinating. When you present a challenge, an engineering challenge or an activity, the younger the kid, the more excited and open, and they just go crazy with it. Like they have no fear of failure. And then when we do that same activity, say I gave it to you or somebody who's been an engineer and for their whole career, they usually, they think of all these different things and they make it harder than it is. It's fascinating, but so yeah, we can start with appropriate activities as early as preschool, and then we go all the way through high school, and we also have programs to support professionals. A lot of women and people of color need to find networks because it's a challenging career for underrepresented and underserved populations. So we want to also provide networks for those groups so they can persist and stay in the career because we need diversity in engineering careers.
So can they able to understand what exactly engineering is? The
Yeah,
students,
so
the kids.
Yeah, so what we do on the site is we have a whole section devoted to what are careers in engineering. So if you go to discovere.org, there's a whole section on, do you want to be a civil engineer and what does that look like? And then we have these types of videos, and you can watch a conversation with a civil engineer talking about a day in the life. Or you can go and all of our chats with changemakers, you can download those and listen. And with those, what's nice about those is that the engineer that we interview, so recently we interviewed two women who worked on the Jim Webb telescope that just launched, and one was an optical engineer. So she was instrumental in building all the mirrors on that telescope, up in space. And she talked about that in the years that she worked on it, and so how exciting it was to go up into space. And then at the end of that conversation, she challenged the students watching to build, I think she did build a rocket. And so that's a fun thing too. So you kind of get to learn about what an optical engineer does, and then she walks you through a challenge that you can do on your own. And she'll tell you all the materials you need, and she challenges you, and she does it too. And it's a lot of fun to watch and gets kids engaged.
So how many countries are collaborated with this?
Yeah, we're global. So, we hear from people in the Middle East. We hear from people in China. We hear from people in India and Canada and Mexico. So it has a very wide reach. And a lot of that too is because we partner with corporations that are global, and they then like our mission as well. So they reach out to their employees and say, hey, we're going to put together this volunteer opportunity for you. So it just kind of, because we believe in working as a coalition and expanding and connecting with as many people as we can, that's how we're able to get to all these different countries and reach kids and adults from all over. We're a small organization if you look at us in terms of how many are on our staff. There are only 6 people on our staff. And we're located, our physical address is outside of Washington, D.C., but we're a virtual office. So we're all over as well, but there are only 6 of us. But then we are partnering, and, that's how we kind of make all of this work, because we can't do it alone. That's, one of our guiding principles is a united front and access for all, because we can't do it alone. None of us are as strong as all of us. So that's really, really key principle of how we make this work.
So in simple words, discover engineering gives information about how engineering works, how to start engineering, and what exactly engineering is. If you do engineering, what kind of projects you are going to do, and uh, how you are going to be useful for the world with this kind of stream or department. And how many departments that you put in your website?
So the website covers, there's a section, so do you want to volunteer? So there's a whole section about volunteering. So how do you do that? So what if you wanted to go in a classroom and talk about software engineering? Kids are intimidating, right? So you want to know, how do I do this? So, how do I reach out to a teacher, and what do I talk to the kids about? And so that's like a whole section of our website kind of walks you through that and says, here's how you would do it. Here's an example. Here are some activities. And the key point is to be authentic and talk about what you do. And how do you talk to the teacher? So there's that whole section of our site set up for that. And then we have another section of the site set up for teachers because they're asking the same questions. How do I talk about engineering? It's not, I'm not an expert in that. And so we walk them through, and really what we're talking about to kids is, engineers are problem solvers. They're trying to solve big world problems, and it's fascinating. They're working on climate change. They're working on, like I said, the things in space, and how is that going to help us? They're solving, how do we feed the world? How do we, the pandemic is a perfect example. Like, how do we get that vaccine manufactured? We had somebody who is a manufacturing engineer, and she talked about in pharmaceuticals, and she talked about how they do it, and that's all she does. And how do you do that? Or, engineers are building shoes. It's like there's this whole other world. Or you might be into agriculture, and what do agricultural engineers do? So there's also a section for students. Yeah. So how do you can kind of go on there and explore as a student all those career opportunities. There's opportunities where you don't have to go and get a college degree or a master's degree or a PhD. You can go right out of high school and be in a technical profession. And the other side of engineering is that they typically, are very high earning jobs. It's a great career for people. And, a lot of the number one reason we hear that a lot of people don't pursue engineering is, one, they hadn't heard about it and weren't aware, and then they learned about it as an adult, or they thought it was just for kids that loved math and science. And, that's not really true. That's a misconception. I don't know how many, I'm going to ask you too. I don't know how many engineers I talked to who said, oh my God, I struggled in math, or I hated math. And here they are, engineers. So, you don't have to love math. It's a part of being an engineer, but I think it's better to really think that about engineers as problem solvers, and they really want to solve big problems, little problems, but that whole process is what fascinates engineers.
So how you'll explain them?
So what we do is we let you, the engineers, kind of talk about it. People want to hear your story. They want to know, why you chose to be an engineer. And typically, what we hear is they did a program in school, or they did something an after school program. There's usually a program or a person that really got somebody interested early on. And then they talk about having a mentor, somebody that, along the way continually supported them and said, no, keep doing this. You're good at it. It makes sense. Don't, it can be tough sometimes, but keep going. So I think that the best resource is to hear from other engineers. And that's what we try to do. We really try to connect that engineer with somebody who's interested or aspiring to be an engineer. Your stories are really what spark that interest.
That's amazing. So kids are going to listen to the engineers and they are going to know how they become engineers.
Yeah, and the other thing that we learn is messages matter, right? So how you talk to kids, and that's something that um, we have on our site as well, because you don't want to go in and say, "Oh my gosh, it's so hard," and you know, kids want to hear the fun parts of it too, the what you've accomplished, and it's those messages, and so we kind of say, okay, yeah, it is hard. Anything we do, there's parts that are hard. But being in a team, or seeing the Jim Webb telescope go into space after 10 years of work. I mean, the women talking about it on our call said they were in tears. They were so happy that they had contributed to something so amazing. And I think that really inspires kids, because it's like, oh wow, I can do that. Or to see like if they're a kid in India, like they can be like, oh, I can do that too. And that's what's really important, is that we have diverse groups of people in diverse disciplines of engineering talk about what they do, because it's things that we had somebody who was created Paw Patrol, that kids show. So there's engineers in making toys. It's like, oh wow, I could do that. That's fascinating. So yeah, it's really hearing those stories. There are, by 2025, they predict there will be 1 million engineering jobs unfilled, because we do not have people going into the engineering profession. That's a lot of jobs, and that's a lot. We need people, because it's their ideas and their inspiration that are going to solve those problems. 1 million unfilled jobs. That's why we're doing this. We need to make sure that doesn't happen. We have to inspire people and spark this interest and get them aware of what can be done if you pursue an engineering degree or career.
So majorly, Discover he works for under 18 age people.
You discovered.
Discover Engineering works only for under 18
Oh,
age
okay.
people.
No, we also do things for people in the profession. So we've been focusing on supporting women, and particularly women of color, with one of our programs. It's called the Persist series. So we do that as well, because what we found is that you enter the profession, and a lot of women and people of color leave within 5 years because they don't feel supported. So we wanted to figure out ways to provide those networks for people, because you want to go where you're celebrated, not just tolerated. And that's really important. So that's one of our programs. And then we do focus and work with other partners who are doing similar things. So here in the US, we partnered with the National Academy Foundation, which is focused on students at high risk, underrepresented, underserved populations. And we're trying to build the Future City program with teachers in those schools at the high school level. And our Engineers Week program is also very, very strong in colleges and universities around the globe. So we are in in other areas besides reaching kids. And National Engineers Week, companies celebrate that, so they will launch all kinds of programs to celebrate their engineers. So it's not just students.
So different country kids have different backgrounds and they have different cultures. So how you are going to make everybody understand?
Yeah, so that, that is challenging. And that's another reason, like, we want to partner with other organizations. So in Canada, we partner with Engineers Canada, and they have the same mission. So it's working. We also partner with an organization in China so that, so that we can work with other countries and cultures to get that message across as well. So it is, um, in our view, the best way to do that is to be partnering with organizations in other countries that share our mission, because they can help amplify it better. We would love it. We changed our whole website so that it could use Google Translate, because it's so hard, when you're a smaller nonprofit, to be able to translate everything into every language. So we did redo, so we don't want PDFs. We want everything, all of our site, to be able to be use Google Translate, so that I mean, it's not ideal, but it's at least, we can have it all translated. And then we feel that that next step is partnering with other organizations in other countries to get that word out about what engineers do. And we love highlighting engineers in other countries on our programming. So chats with changemakers, where we have that opportunity, or like I said, our Persist series, or when we're talking about careers, we try to make sure that we're taking sort of a global lens, so that you can see it's so there are engineers across the globe doing amazing things.
So you're a very small team, but you have very big goals, and you are being the uh, reason for creating a lot of engineers. Like upcoming engineers are going to be, uh, because of your contribution. So so, like you said, you changed your website according to that. And what are the communication mediums that you are using in order to send the engineering, concept in everywhere, every part of the world?
Yeah, so we try to have a social media presence. So we use Twitter, and we have a lot of we have a YouTube channel, and LinkedIn and Facebook. So yeah, we're trying to use all of those different media to reach people, chatting with you. It's really important. You can go on our site. We have, if you're over 18, you can join our newsletter and get information that way. Um, and for National Engineers Week, we provide sort of all the theme and all the collateral, so that people take that and all the images and t-shirts and all that stuff. We come up with that every year, and then we want everyone to use it on their socials, so that it's not just us, it's getting amplified over and over and over again. So that you'll see, our reimagining the possible was our theme for this year. So if you were to Google Engineers Week, you'll see that all over. And different companies are using it, and different people are using it, and that's really powerful. So that's how we really try and do it, is just try and go viral in as many spaces as we can, and use other people's social media as well to do it. So it's challenging, but it's exciting, and that's how we met you. It's you just kind of find us and find each other, and we all have similar missions, and trying to reach people and excite them about the future of engineering.
So you said engineers from different departments come and tell their stories. So do they talk about their projects, and do they tell that how they did, and what made them to do it, and how that is creating impact, and how it is helpful for the world? Do they talk about their projects?
Yeah, they do. A lot of them are, really excited to talk about it. So they do, they'll share, we usually ask, so, when did you decide that you wanted to be an engineer? And they'll talk about it. And like I said, it's usually, they did some program and they're like, yeah, I was in, fifth grade and, this engineer came in and talked about blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wow, that's so amazing. Or it's because someone in their family, said, hey, this would be great. I think it's something you should pursue. Or they had a teacher, who said, yeah, you really should pursue this. You're really good at it. And we've had, I've been amazed at some of the stories. We had a man talk about he was a U.S. immigrant and English was his second language, and he struggled in high school with math, but he wanted to be an engineer. He just knew that that was what he wanted to do. So it took him 10 years. He talked about it. He's like, I had to figure out, what it was with math that I wasn't getting, and he realized it was geometry. And once he figured that out, then he had to figure out how to pay for school because he was working and going to school at the same time. But he did it, and he's a successful engineer today, and he talks about it. Or you hear amazing stories, and he talks about how I think it was his uncle was really, really behind him the whole way, supporting him and encouraging him to do it. And then he went on to talk about the different projects that he's worked on. But you hear a lot of stories like that they, people, something just sparked their interest, and they, there's, when people talk about their engineering stories, you really feel the joy. It's fascinating. Like there's a lot of joy in it, and somebody calls it joy and rigor, the joy and rigor of engineering, and it comes through when people talk about their own personal stories. And I'm curious, as I'm talking about this, are you thinking of when you decided to become an engineer? Is this like, are you relating to what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm listening to you.
Yeah. Did you have, like, why did you decide to become an engineer?
My grandfather, he's a veterinary doctor, so he said me to that the engineering thing is going to be very good. It enhances your skills. You can use your mind better, like effectively and efficiently. Engineers are like doing so many things in the world. So he told me like these are the engineering things like aeronautical engineering, civil engineering, uh, electrical engineering, electrical and electronics. Recently, I did an interview who is like a new stream I listened. Information technology plus electrical electronics. Like there is a new stream that in a university that they introduced. Like so many engineering I said, and I first I went to Triple E, like which is called as electrical and electronic engineering, and then after 1 month I shifted to computer science and engineering. Then that's how it started, and it's amazing. It's amazing when knowing, creating, listening to creations, like seeing like SpaceX, Elon Musk, right?
Yeah.
And if you see Facebook, all these, like if you see internet companies, Amazon, all these software companies, I talk with a lot of engineers. Like I talk with a lot of professionals. Like you, they came from different backgrounds. They don't have a foundation, engineering foundation. Like you are telling from very beginning ages, they know what how exactly things work in this profession, in this thing. But a lot of people came without backgrounds and have backgrounds, and also people who work in Microsoft, top companies in the world. The engineers, they have background, they have degree, they don't have degree. Like the companies are recruiting based upon the how they are solving the problems. No matter they have the they studied or not, if they can able to solve this, they will take this. They will take that person. So that is how industry is. But this is something that is revolutionary thought. I didn't see this kind of a thought that you are doing in, like, this is the first time I'm listening, and also my audience will know for the first time, like, kids will watch this, they will understand that in the very beginning age, you're telling that. So how you are, like, you show the pictures, you show the pictorial presentation, audio, video,
Mhm.
and text. How you will able to communicate with them in order to make them understand.
Yeah, so we work with teachers to do that. So we'll partner with different teachers. Um, if it's, right now, a lot of stuff is virtual, so the teacher can log into the chats with Changemaker when it's live. And so students can watch and ask questions live, or they can do it on demand. So that's a virtual way that we kind of can get in the classroom pretty easily. And then the other way is with, getting volunteers. So asking someone like you to go in a classroom and talk about what you do, or to spend, if you wanted to do a more intensive volunteering, to do our Future City program, which is like 4 months working with a group of kids. So it's really about partnering with the teachers because they need, or an after school program. It doesn't have to be the teacher, so it could be a parent, um, that would work with a group of students and really introduce them. And, like you said, you don't even have to be an engineer, but once you kind of understand how to solve a problem, like you do it on your own, it builds so much confidence. And you're like, oh, wow, I just created a rocket out of, a tube of cardboard and a balloon and a paperclip, and there weren't instructions. Like you just said, here, figure it out. And there's a little instruction, but you know, that's a huge confidence builder, and it's skills, like you were saying, of how do you solve problems. And you have to reiterate, you have to fail a lot before you succeed. And that's, what engineers do all the time. And it's important when you're young to understand that failure actually is a great thing because you're learning so much as you're failing so that you can just keep building and building to improve. But to really reach all these students, we try and work with other teachers and with parents, and any ways that there'll be kids around, to do some sort of activity or watch a video or just anything that will really spark that interest. And you know the thing that's nice about DiscoverE is that we work with instructional designers. So any activity on our site that you will find has been vetted, and it's gone through a sort of a design educational process. So we hear again and again, we're complimented by teachers saying this is really, really good. So you're getting something that teachers find beneficial in the classroom, because we do take the time to work with educators and instructional designers to put these activities together. And again, they're all free on our site. Like all you have to do is create an account. So you're getting some really valuable content that you can bring in to a classroom. And as a student, you can go on too, and just, if you want to just do it yourself, self-learn, and you can do that as well.
So what are the common questions that students ask?
It's funny. Um, Sometimes they just ask silly things like, you know, what's your favorite breakfast cereal? They just want to know you as a human. What do you like as a person? But a lot of times, I think they ask, how did you get started? What do you like the most about your job? And then, yeah, what do you do for fun? They want to know the whole person, not just about your job. So they'll ask, what do you do in your free time? How do you have fun? In addition to, the most popular interview we've had so far was with a NASA astronaut. I can't remember how, I mean, it was just phenomenal, the number of live, viewers for that one. I guess outer space fascinates all of us. But they asked a lot of questions about how do you, because, to get to be a NASA astronaut, it's like, the pool shrinks and shrinks and shrinks, and, not many people get to that point. So they're really curious about, how they got there. But then they did ask, so, what did you eat what was your favorite meal when you were in space? And I didn't know this. I don't know if you know this, but she said, they're really worried about astronauts, their health in space. And so they want to make sure they eat a healthy diet. So before, part of their training is they work with a dietitian to find out what their favorite foods are. So they make sure that they send up. So like somebody had shrimp cocktail when they were up in space. So they want to send food that is their favorite so that they eat and stay healthy. I had no idea. But yeah, you can eat shrimp cocktail when you're in space.
So even educators are from different countries.
Yes, they are. And yeah, we just had a whole team from China make our top 5 finalists for the Future City competition. So yeah, we had, and I think that's the first time that a team from China made the top 5. But yeah, from other countries, India, we have a team from India that typically participates every year. So from all over. Mm-hmm.
So what is the goal of Discover Engineering?
Our goal is really to reach students, to as many as students as we can, to get them excited and really spark that interest that, engineering is a great career. It's a great opportunity. Like you talked about, even if you don't become, what a traditional engineer job, but just that whole understanding the engineering design process, you can take that anywhere. I mean, it's really about how do you solve problems. So even if you don't become a computer engineer or a software engineer, just really understanding how to solve problems can take you so many places and open so many doors. You'll find engineers that go on and work for companies that are, in the business world just because they know how to think and solve problems. So we just want people to understand that engineering really means problem solving. How do you do that? How do you think through a problem and get to a solution? And it'll open so many doors and provide so many opportunities. That's sort of our big message and our big goal.
So kids will be doing so many tasks in order to involve in this.
Yeah, there's, this it's just that aha moment of, wow, I can do this. And seeing other people who look like them, like seeing women engineers, seeing engineers from India, oh wow, like, and you're young, right? And you're an engineer. Like, there's young people who are engineers and doing amazing things, part of amazing projects. And it's just like it's just there's so many kids describe when they do some sort of activity, they describe it as, an aha moment, or it's transformational, is what we hear from parents, that confidence boost of, I did it. I figured it out on my own. And that's important. And we want more of that for kids.
So at last, what do you want to say to the world who is watching and listening to us about Discover Engineering?
What I want to say is how important it is to inspire kids, no matter what you do, to be there and talk to kids. And, if you can be a mentor to someone, do it. whether it's engineering or not. The kids are super excited to learn, and being there, if you can get in a classroom or talk to a student and talk about what you do, it's just amazing. And kids, they want to be inspired. And so let's, talk about being a systems engineer, a computer engineer, a software engineer, and spark that interest early in them and support them and encourage them. I think we're trying to inspire everyone to volunteer or be a mentor and support kids or support others in the profession and really think about how we can be diverse and inclusive in engineering and in this field so that we don't have a million jobs that are going unfilled. There's just so much opportunity out there, and we want to get people excited and enthusiastic and celebrate, the amazing things that engineers do.
I'm sure in coming days, in coming years, Discover is going to be the reason for a lot of engineers in the world, and also will also give some hope that even people who wants to come, but didn't came, their children, they will definitely make come into this by showing the resources that you're providing, and also you will be the reason for their smile.
I hope so. I hope so. And so will you, because you're talking about it as well. And you're sharing how great it is and what a great opportunity it is. And that's it right there. You and I, we're gonna solve it all.
So as a CEO, and as a person who is teaching and telling what the importance of engineering. So, what do you say? As an engineer, like an engineer is there in front of you. So, what do you say about my work? Have you seen any videos of mine on YouTube? Me talking with a lot of engineers in the world.
I have. I went through some of them, and I was so impressed with the number of people that you've interviewed. And it's just amazing, and I think you need to keep doing it. And I don't know, maybe you should maybe interview a kid who's thinking of being an engineer. That might be interesting. But I was amazed with the number of people and the number of CEOs that you've interviewed. So yeah, I think it's great. I think it's so important. So I'm super excited for you, and I think you need to keep doing this.
So, this interview will come on my YouTube channel after the interview that I did with a NASA engineer.
Oh, fantastic! That's great. Did you ask him why he became an engineer?
Yeah, you will see that, as so many questions, he started his job as a system engineer,
Yeah.
and he started with system engineer, support engineer, and slowly, he went into different jobs, and he understood the business side of the
Mm-hmm.
engineering, and also the technology. And now he is into NASA, and he's also doing a separate project on like how to go to moon,
Yeah.
why we want to go to moon, and why how it is going to be useful for the human beings, and is it important for us to reach the moon. So that kind of questions, and
Oh,
he took my interview for his channel, for his project, and I took his interview for my podcast. So it was like 2 years.
that's
So
great. I'm glad I follow him because astronauts get a lot. They get a lot of attention. I don't know. If it's a
so
good thing or a bad thing to follow an astronaut, but
so uh, what do you think I will learn from interviewing these different country people who are into different professions, and CEOs, founders, and company owners, and also people who are into different professions? Like you said, kids needs to know the problem solving. Like they should be able to solve any problem, and they are called as engineers. So I'm doing interviews people who are already solved the problems in the industry, and who solve bigger problems. and who spend time in the industry for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. So they solve so many problems. I'm talking with them. So as an engineer, what I'm going to learn from all this collection of people?
Yeah, and I think that what's also fascinating for kids is, um, so I'll use the Future City competition because a lot of times they look locally to where they are, and they apply the competition question, and they kind of like one group, their future city was actually Detroit, where they live. So they were thinking about, locally as well as, 100 years into the future. So I think it's important for kids and all of us, right? To think about, you know, things we can do in our own communities to solve problems. They don't have to be, these global issues. They definitely touch upon global issues like, a zero waste economy. A lot of kids talked about, recycling, and we can all do that in our own wherever we live. And what does that mean? And then they applied that to a much bigger global issue, because then another group of kids had their city in the ocean. So they were, finding all of the debris that winds up in the ocean and collecting that and using it to build a island for their city. So their city was built from all the trash that winds up are in the ocean, and that would be collected to build the city, and then that was how they kept the world sustainable. So they're thinking of local and global issues and how they can even do things differently in a small way, and not necessarily all, these are huge global issues. But you're right, hearing how people solve global issues and then also things we can do at a local level is all about that whole process of change, creating change in a positive way.
So I'm sure I want engineers who will educate, who will get trained and who will get education from Discover Engineering. I want them to we as a, I want them to take all the human beings to other planets with using their engineering skills, developing their engineering skills,
Yeah.
understanding what exactly engineering is, and solving unsolved questions and questioning. I think asking questions will let them understand how things work. I'm sure you will be the reason for the uh, humanity, the betterment in the world, and also you will be the reason for productivity and construction in the world.
Well, thank you. I hope that is the outcome, and it wouldn't just be me, but it's DiscoverE and partners like you and all of us working together to get that message out.
Can I put this video on my YouTube channel with your permission?
Yes, yes,
And also, can I put this audio and video clip on my podcast, website, internet, social media, everywhere with your permission?
yes, yes. And I think
Yeah.
Sarah will reach out to in terms of how she'll use it, because she does the marketing for DiscoverE.
I'll put your website link in the description of this video, and also I'll put on the screen. People who find the video on YouTube can see it and can see what you're doing and how they can learn and how they can improve themselves, and also how it is going to be useful for their relatives.
Okay, that sounds great.
Can you spell your website to my podcast people?
It's discovere.org. So it's DiscoveRE.org.
So thank you, Katie. Keep going and keep inspiring the world like this.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Bye.
Bye.